there's many areas of controversy in bioethics. One of the most visible is this question on whether the federal government should fund research on cells taken from human embryos. But we don't know what regulations will matter, because to some extent many people in this area are willing to regulate are willing to limit what nobody wants to do or what nobody can do. The regulations only really count, and they only become really controversial when they actually prevent people, scientists, companies, from doing what they can and what they want to do. The public is two-minded on this. They want the medical research, but they don't want to pay a price for it. 70% of people would support federal research on stem cells not taken from embryos, taken from adults, taken from leftover material at birth. Scientists and the biotech companies just don't want to be regulated. The embryo cells are valued because they help drug companies develop new products, new drugs. They're great. They're like, crudely speaking, human lab rats. On the other hand, stem cells taken from adults can be used by surgeons to create patches, repair organs. They work, but they're more expensive and they're hard to do. So the importance of cloning is basically for medical research of new drugs. If you're going to develop a new product, you want to test it as carefully and as accurately and predictably as possible, especially a drug product. Because if you make a mistake and you're not allowed to sell the product, for example, then you waste $500 million of investment. Or worse, if you're allowed to sell it by the federal government and it turns out to be harmful, you'll get sued by a lot of people and it'll cost you a pile of money. So the companies want to test their drugs and develop them as cheaply as possible and test them as effectively as possible. And the best way to do this is to test drugs on people as early as possible. The best way to test them on people is not to hire people off the street and inject drugs into them, because frankly, they're sick people, they're poor people, they don't turn up. It's very confusing. The best way to do it is have to have basically a cloned set of cells in a laboratory. The cells are uniform, the same, never change, and you could test huge amounts of compounds and potential drugs against the standard human cells. Think of it way of a giant warehouse full of lab rats, all exactly twins, exactly the same. That simplifies testing. Human cloning would create warehouses full of dishes of cells. Diseases, well, who should they be tested on? People in the United States, or people in China, or people in Africa? Those are just the current disputes. But social libertarians believe, crudely speaking, it's a free-for-all. Everybody does their own. Social conservatives say, well, perhaps, but we need to remember that certain things are also valuable, even if you can't count them in the marketplace, such as the value of life, the value of human life. An old person who may have very little market power, who may be poor, who's going to speak for them? Progressives are split between these two factions. Regulation-minded progressives who say, well, if we don't regulate medical research, the big companies will deliver most of the benefits to the rich. Okay, we're heading towards a situation where people will, in effect, design their children before they're born. In any new science, lots of errors are made. Someday, somebody's going to birth a clone. By the way, some clones walking around among us.